All right, the big one. What can Gene not do after Finny dies, and how does he explain this? Shelby?
He cannot cry because he says it feels as if he was at his own funeral.
And you don't cry at your own funeral. Excellent, Shelby. It's almost a direct quotation, but can you get me a page reference for that, please? I'll give you hints at the very end of chapter 12. What page, Jordan? 194. Could not cry then, now, or even then. Felt like my own funeral. You don't cry at your own funeral. This is a challenging and confusing statement. He doesn't cry at the funeral of his best friend, who died at the age of about 17, for no really good reason. It wasn't even a death during war, at least not the main war. So before we get to the understanding why he's saying that, before we get to question 3, let's take a look at the second question. How has Knowles confused or merged Gene and Finny's identity before this? Consider how Knowles has shown these boys taking over each other's identities. Think of examples, Jake. When did he do that? Very good. Gene wears Finny's clothes, which was a little bit creepy. And he looked at himself in the mirror, and when he looked at himself in the mirror, what did he see? Finny. Very good. That's example 1. Give me more examples. How are these two boys merged, Jake?
When Finny's training Gene to play the Olympics.
Correct. Whose dream was going to the Olympics? Finny's, yet Gene takes it over, right? Give me more. Gene tutoring Finny, although it doesn't seem like Finny suddenly becomes the academic star.
Well, he gets better, though.
He does get better. Okay, so we can say that. Anything else? Yes. What about athletics? Yeah, that's really what we've got here for the Olympics. Do you remember, Josiah, where, or during what event Gene really proves that he is now the athletic star of Devon? Yeah, the Winter Carnival. He's the one who wins all the awards. He's the one who basically does what Finny would have done in his place. So, excellent. More. All right, I'll give you a few. Lepers looking at the boys in the tree limb. He's describing during his testimony. And they seem to be merging into one, right? So the sun is in his eyes. Leper cannot distinguish them. True. True. But hold on. Leper may be insane. However, his observations are still relevant. What does Quackenbush call Gene that upsets Gene so much? He calls him maimed. What does maimed mean? Crippled, wounded, disabled. Now hold on a second. Back up for a moment. Quackenbush calls Gene maimed, calls Gene crippled. Why? You think that's why Quackenbush called him that? No, Quackenbush is not intelligent enough to see that Gene caused it. Quackenbush is an idiot. It's true. His name is Cliff. What is Gene doing when they get into a fight? What is he there for? He's there to be the assistant crew manager. A job reserved for whom? Usually reserved for people who have disabilities. Why would Gene go for that job? Possibly to learn how to be more sensitive to Finny, but he doesn't know that Finny's coming back. Because he feels like he is Finny. So if Sports are done for Finny. They're done for Gene as well. This is another piece of evidence of these two boys being the same boy. Yeah.
When Finny denies that there's a war, Gene starts to agree with him.
Very good. Gene takes on that denial. And when Finny can't enlist for war, what does Gene not do?
He doesn't enlist.
He doesn't enlist for war either. What about them physically? Same height, same age, roughly the same weight. After Gene starts bulking up, he's probably about the same weight too. These boys are physically identical. They merge in each other's identities. They take over each other's dreams. They dress in each other's clothes. Finny has been dressing in Gene's clothes occasionally too, just because he's so scatterbrained he doesn't even notice. Leper can't distinguish between the two. Quackenbush mistakes Gene for a cripple.
So when Finny dies, it's like sort of like the denial is died of.
I want you all to pay attention to what Jake has said, because it's not 100% on the nose, but it's really, really darn close. Jake is saying that a part of Gene has died. And Finny was the part of Gene that died. But it's not the denial part, although that's a portion of it. Do you understand Gene's behavior at the funeral or not? Why? I'll help you out with this question, because this question sometimes stumps students. Most students answer, no, I can't understand it. Why? Yeah, everybody in third period is saying, no, man, I can't understand that. That doesn't make any sense. Not cry at his best friend's funeral. Why wouldn't that make sense, Sarah? Because if your best friend dies, you cry. Duh. Sarah's being literal. Sarah is looking at this as if it is an actual funeral and these are actual people. Let's look at it as if it were symbolic. In other words, figurative. These are not real people. These are two halves of one person. So which half just died?
The half of Finny, so it's still like there's one half left.
There's still a person left.
So there's still a person left. So it's like in his mind he feels like Finny is still there because he kind of since he acts like him. I don't know. I understand. I just can't.
I know.
say it.
That's okay. That's okay, and we'll get there. Hold on to what Jake offered in the beginning. A part of him has died. We just have to figure out what part of him died.
If it's just a part of him that's kind of like a changing person.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like a change, yeah.
He probably wouldn't realize that. He wouldn't realize when he died. It kind of just feels like more of a change instead of like loss.
Sarah, you've got an excellent point. Most of the time when we change like that, we don't even notice. Change is just sort of gradual. However, at this point with the war and everything is kind of heightened and made extreme. So the change is a little bit more dramatic.
But you might not necessarily be sobbing your eyes out.
True. Especially if just a portion of you dies. If a part of you just changes or goes away, you wouldn't cry over it. You don't cry when you change your personality or your character. True.
The Gene person has died.
No, the Gene part is still alive, because remember, Gene's still alive. The Finny part has died.
But like what I'm trying to say is like since he acts like Finny, the part of his whole part.
Ah, but does he still act like Finny? He's no longer wearing Finny's clothes. He's no longer acting like Finny. He no longer goes along with the denial. He stopped acting like Finny. He was acting like Finny for a while, especially in the beginning of the book. But the question is, the most important question is, what did Finny represent? What portion did he represent? Okay. Now you're bringing the evolution back into it. The part that couldn't evolve. That's true. The part that couldn't change. The one that couldn't deal with competition. The one that couldn't deal with reality. We're getting closer to it, Jake.
I was going to say, like, the one that couldn't deal with war.
True. War is fought by whom?
People.
Yeah. What kind of people?
18-year-old.
Okay. What?
18-year-old.
18-year-old and up are considered what? They're considered adults. What does Finny act like throughout the summer? Can you give me some evidence of him acting like a child? When they went to the beach and they skipped school, right? It's a childlike thing to do, to just ditch your responsibilities. Somebody give me other examples. Jumps out of the tree. Why is that a childlike action? Most children don't have a concept of their own mortality and don't understand that sort of injury happening to them, whereas adults are a little bit more cautious. Robbie? That's true, but they don't do. Most adults are cautious. Most adults will take measures. No sane adult will just jump off a cliff for fun.
Like when he skips class.
Skips class.
He gets angry, like one time got mad at Gene for.
Got mad at Gene for what?
For playing that he was the one who pushed him off the tree, and also when they were like when they had Gene and Finny in the school, and they were like trying to prove that Gene pushed him out of the tree. He got really mad and sort of stormed off.
Because children have a hard time understanding what about the world?
Reality.
What about reality?
Like that people would want to harm other people.
Have you ever met kindergartners? Aside from those extreme cases of abuse or some other problem, kindergartners are optimistic, idealistic, nice people who want to be friends with everybody. Huh? No. No. Shh. Hey, hold on. The stereotypical image of a child of that age, the bright-eyed image of a child that age, is of one who is idealistic. That means thinks in terms of the way the world should be, not in the way the world is. Wants to be friends with everybody, just wants to have fun, has no real sense of winning and losing, just wants to go out and play. And that is Finny to a T. And that is Finny to a T to such an extent that he ignores schoolwork. Sound like a child thing to do? Sure. Who tells my daughter to do her schoolwork, herself or me? I do it. At some point, she will start doing it herself. But at her age, she's not thinking about schoolwork or responsibilities, because that's not a child thing to do. Finny is acting like a child. Can children fight in war? Why not? There are examples of child soldiers, certainly. And those child soldiers are scary, by the way, because when they're brainwashed and manipulated into becoming little killing machines, they are frightening. But children, for the most part, cannot understand or cope with the needs of war. So, Jake, quickly.
So when Finny dies,
Yes.
it's like Gene becoming a man.
Very good. So if Knowles is presenting these two boys as not two distinctly different boys, but symbolically the same boy, and then Finny dies, what happens? His childhood has died. Sarah, would you cry over your childhood dying? No. It's kind of sad, but it's nothing you're going to sit there and cry over. It's not a tragedy because it's necessary. You must evolve past childhood. You must become an adult.
Your childhood comes back when you retire.
Your childhood is never truly dead if you're a well-developed person. Do you remember at the end of the book how he says that Finny is always alive in everything that he does?
Yeah.
There you go. Because Finny stays with him as sort of a spark of idealism and optimism, just as any well-developed adult will keep a bit of their child sense in them. However, adults who act like children don't succeed in the same way. All right. So that's about enough, and hopefully, Jake, we've answered your question. We'll still have to go into chapter 13, and your next QAR is due on Thursday. We'll talk about that chapter 13 one tomorrow. So if you choose to write that for Thursday, you're welcome to. Yes?
Well, what QAR one should I do for tomorrow? Because I was going to go on Friday. I didn't decide.
Okay, you would choose one. Mm.
Is that what we're doing the last one? Just choose the whatever one?
Yes.